Okay, good morning. So I will start by saying, for one, I am not my father's child in public speaking. I am not my mother's child in the kitchen. But I have quite a story. There will be some tears, some sweat. I am so thankful. Thank you so much, everyone who has prayed for us, who has given us stuff, who has just had faith when we didn't, because there were so many times that I lacked the faith that I needed for things to happen, and y'all carried me through. When my faith wavered, yours did not. So, this is our story. There's Colin and Callie, and they're back there making noise. So it all started with a little boy. A lot of y'all remember Case, and he came into our lives as what we took on as a foster, hoping we would get to adopt him. And there were a lot of family issues. We'll just leave it at that, and it didn't work out. But if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be where we are now. He is why this happened. So we are so thankful for that little boy and the role he played in our lives. And every time I see him or think of him, I think of that as a reminder to pray for him, to pray for his happiness, to pray for his health, his safety. And that, I feel, has become my mission and the reason that I met him and the reason he came into our lives and y'all's lives. And so there's Case. Kurt and I got married. I always dreamt of being a stay-at-home mom and having children. And when I realized I would just have to find a really rich man and if I wanted that to happen, it didn't happen. I decided I better go to nursing school and get a job and make my own money. So Kurt and I got married. I went to nursing school. He had his career in law enforcement. I graduated, and it was time to start a family. Things didn't go as planned. I was not coming through pregnancy as easily as we had hoped. So we tried a bunch of different measures. We met with doctors. We tried medications. This is kind of out of order because this is towards the end of where we ended up to be able to make things happen. But after trying different procedures and meeting with different doctors, we ended up doing IVF, and this is a bunch of the medication and injections and things that I had to use to try to help stimulate the process. That's part of it. That is a portion of the medication I ended up needing to use. And I don't say this to say that I had it harder than anyone else or for anyone to feel bad for me of what we went through, but these are the things and the challenges that we faced to get to where we are. And these are my reminders that this is what I had planned, but that's not what God had planned. He didn't plan for a baby to come through those measures, and that's okay. I had very good friends who continued to pray for me and encourage me and send me little tokens of support along the way to remind me that you don't give up, you keep praying, you keep hoping, and even if things don't work out the way that you hope they will, they're going to work out one way or another. Lauren made that for me, and I put some of the little flip tops from the vials in there as kind of a reminder of part of the journey. So there were problems, delays, heartache. Endometriosis was one of our main problems, and the endometrial tissue is a tissue that is part of your body, but in endometriosis, it actually starts to move into areas of your body it shouldn't be. It can be outside of your uterus, in your colon. It can move all over your body and cause problems, and that was the problem. So then, like y'all saw, the medications IUI, IVF. Those are a couple of the different things that we tried. Despite science and reproductive medicine failing repeatedly, I didn't once think that God would fail me. I knew He had a plan, even though I got down, discouraged. The doctors would always say, well, let's try this, let's increase this, or let's add this, or let's try this other procedure. You know, it's only 20,000 more than the one you're trying. I said, no, I just, bigger miracles have happened. I'm not ready for that. Even though I'm getting older, I'm considered a geriatric mom, that I just wasn't ready. I knew there was something bigger. And along the way, I would constantly look for different verses for encouragement to keep me grounded in what was going on and how to focus. One of the ones I came across, I won't leave you comfortless, I'll come to you. And that was something that I kept in my phone, and I won't say I always looked back at it, but it was there. And when I could focus and think about ways that I needed to just get my mind right, that's one of the verses I would go to. And then one day I came across something about a story in Mark 2, and it talks about how a man was healed because of the faith of his friends. And I thought how applicable that is to our story, because this didn't happen because of my faith. I didn't keep the faith that would have made this happen on my own. It happened because of my parents' faith and my friends' faith and the church's faith. And just to summarize, Jesus was in a town doing some healings, and there was a paralyzed man. He had some friends, and those friends wanted him healed. And 4 friends had so much faith that Jesus could heal him that they took him to the town. They went to the house. The house was so packed they couldn't get in it. So they found a way to lower him in through the ceiling, and Jesus healed him. And it wasn't because of the faith of the man. It was because of his 4 friends who carried him in. And so when I came across this image in Mark 2, Jesus healed a paralyzed man because of the faith of his friends. This is why your circle matters. This is why, and I know this usually applies to younger people and how it's important to keep good influences and good friends around. But even as adults, as I've learned, it's because of the friends and the family who kept the faith. It's not because of my own faith. It's because of all of the faith of the people around me. My faith wavered. My faith was not, it failed at times, but my friends didn't. My family didn't. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. God knew these babies before they were born. We ended up with a neighbor where we currently live, and she was a dispatcher. So Kurt knew her, and they moved across the street from us, and they had little boys, and they would bake us stuff, and we just became real familiar with each other and friends. She moved to Dallas, the friend did, her and her family, and things kind of transpired with the baby that we had that we fostered and hoped to adopt. And the final time that fell through, and we were like, this is it, it's not going to happen. I posted, Kurt kind of toned down what I wanted to post, but I posted that things weren't going to work out, and we were thankful that we got to celebrate his 2nd birthday with him. He spent a year with us. He was 9 months old when he came to us, and we got to celebrate him and just create some good memories and let him know how loved he was. And so after some time passed and I had a chance to process some of that, you're Callie. After I processed that, I posted a vague post because people wonder, they see you with this baby and then all of a sudden the baby's gone, what happened? And so I just posted a vague post about how he was no longer with us. And this friend that we met, that was a neighbor that moved to Dallas, started messaging me on Facebook and asking me about it and telling me how sorry she was and how heartbroken she was. And after chatting it up with me a little bit, she said, "Would y'all ever be interested in adoption again?" And I thought, well, that's odd, just unless you have a reason to ask that. I said, well, we're not opposed to it, but it would have to be so concrete that there would be no doubt. I said, why? Do you have a lead? And she said, well, kind of. She said, a lady works for me, and her daughter is going through an adoption agency. She's pregnant, and she does not plan to, she plans to go through with this pregnancy, but she does not plan to be an active mother in this. She wants to give up, adoption, go through adoption. And so I said, okay, well, let me think about that. Let me talk to Kurt. That's a lot. And she said, oh, by the way, it's twins. Okay, that's a lot. But honestly, I'll say, and people sometimes think we're crazy for taking this on, when we were going through IVF, there was a time, whether it was sane or not, I prayed that we would have twins and we would have a boy and a girl, and we would be done. We would have both genders. We would have both genders. We would have 2 children, and I would be content with that. And so when she said it's twins, I was actually kind of excited. And then she told me it's a boy and a girl, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is a little bizarre. The birth mother wanted to go through the agency because that's what she knew. So our friend talked to her employee, who is the biological grandmother, and the grandmother said, well, let me talk to my daughter. Let me talk to her because she hasn't really finalized things with the agency. So let me talk to her. Talked to her daughter. Her daughter said, ask them to write me a letter. Write me a letter of why they want to adopt, what they've done, and why they want to adopt. So I looked at Kurt and I was like, I guess there's no reason to hold back. There's no harm in letting her know from start to finish where we were, where we are, why we want to adopt. And so I just put everything in there. I said, this is where we started. I finished nursing school because I had to work, because I didn't get to just stay home and do nothing, which I'm glad. I'm thankful for that. But I finished nursing school. We started trying to have a family. It didn't work out. And I think writing that letter, it was therapeutic in a way because it brought a lot of things out that I needed to think through. But it also brought a lot of emotions that were raw and real. And I laid in bed that night and I said, God, please show me why we couldn't just have Case. Just show me. We had him for a year. Our family knows him. We know him. We love him. We want to raise him. Please, I'm tired of, before I would never ask, I would never question, but it had been long enough that I wanted answers. I wanted to see, why can we not have Case? And the next morning, I had a text message from Christy, our friend, and she said, the biological mother read your letter, and she's done with the adoption agency, and she wants y'all to have her children. I said, there's my answer. So there was my clarification. I just had to ask. I'm pushing the button. Can you advance me? It's not. So looking back, when I think through everything, we were in our 30s, early 30s. We were still young in my mind. The birth mother was 16. So, God's plan of everything happening for a reason. She probably wasn't even thinking about children when we were trying to start a family. She was 16 years old when we started the journey of trying to start a family. Sorry, it's not. Oh. So, fast forward, Casey was amazing in answering questions. Derek, anyone, anytime I had a question or a concern, I got connected with the most amazing attorney. Her name is Sarah, and I believe Sarah was extremely instrumental in why this happened the way it did, because her personality, I truly believe, helped guide everything for sure, but it helped make the biological parents want to be cooperative and compliant with everything. There was not a document that she asked them to sign that they wouldn't sign. There was not a phone call or a message they wouldn't return. Getting to know Casey was one of the puzzle pieces that started in this, and Casey knowing Sarah, and Casey connecting us with Sarah, and Sarah just stepping in, and she said, let's be cautiously optimistic and move forward and see what happens, because it sounds too good to be true. And my dad's always said, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So I thought, well, here we go again. We're going to get our hopes up, and hopefully not. But Sarah said, well, let's move forward cautiously and see what happens. So she did all of the in-between, because it's a closed adoption. We do not have contact with the biological parents. Sarah did all of that. And so Derek was at our house one night. We were watching the Astros in the World Series. And I literally thought to myself that night, we're in the midst of waiting on these babies to be born. There's going to be a moment I'm going to wake up and my life is going to be completely different. We're sitting here, just the three of us hanging out. We don't have a responsibility in the world other than making sure the dog gets let out and things get picked up and we go to bed and go to work. That night we went to bed, 4 o'clock in the morning, got a phone call that Mom was in labor. And so there were some delays in responses of, do we head there, do we not, do they want us there now, do they want us there later? I said, Kurt, let's go. They can always say leave, and we can leave, but if they say come and we're not there, we're not going to be able to drive there soon enough. So we started packing our things up, and that was the longest, most silent drive of my entire life, driving 4 hours to Bedford, Texas. I say silent, other than rehashing what the names should be. So we drove to Bedford, Texas. We got there by 9 a.m. The babies had been born shortly before midnight. The hospital already had our names. They whisked us into our room after they verified our ID, and we were probably in the room for 20 minutes. And the nurses stepped away, said they had to do something, and all of a sudden I hear wheels. It's bassinet wheels. Like, we had done nothing other than give them our ID, our names. We got this huge room, and here come 2 bassinets. There's a girl, there's a boy, and they said special delivery. And there's Colin and Callie. And I don't really remember what they looked like that second because my eyes just clouded up with tears. I remember Callie, she looked like an alien. She was very premature. She was very tiny. And they had that orange stocking cap. They were both supposed to have orange stocking caps just to mark that they were preterm. They were just barely preterm. The biological mom did an amazing job. Prenatal care lacked a little bit, but no drugs, no alcohol. I mean, you just couldn't ask for a better situation as far as all that, and her just voluntarily saying, here are my children, take them. I want them to have a better life than I can give them. It's not neglect. It's not that I don't love them. It's that I love them so much. I want them to have better than what I can give, and I know y'all can do that. Here are my children. And we didn't have any delay in bonding. We got to do the skin-to-skin contact that's encouraged for bonding. And I say pinch me because there were moments that I looked at him and I literally thought to myself, am I alive? Have I died and gone to heaven? Because this is exactly what I've hoped for So certainly we've had a car wreck, and in heaven, God's given me everything that I've wanted here on earth because this is it. And here we are. We're still here as far as I know. There's Dad. Tiny, tiny. Next. This nurse was amazing. She treated me as if I was the one who gave birth and went over everything and loved us and prayed for us. And just there's certain people that come along and confirm that you're doing what you need to do. And she was special. There's Christy. This is our neighbor who helped facilitate all this and brought the information along. And if it weren't for her just randomly deciding to say, hey, are y'all interested in adoption, and even having it in her mind that the biological mom might change from an agency to individuals, if it weren't for her, I mean, it just, she's another, I need to draw a puzzle piece around her because she's a huge instrumental puzzle piece in all of this. So she had to come up there. They let us leave. They let us leave with them. We signed the papers. We did everything right. We fed them when we were supposed to. We changed their diapers. They came in and checked every 2 hours. And even though they were checking on the babies, I know they were checking to make sure we were doing what we were supposed to be doing because they knew we hadn't had any other children. And Callie was, at that point, 3.9 pounds, and Callan was only 4'7", because they dropped, they dropped. And they did drop. But yeah, they let us leave. That is amazing. There's the itty bitties in clothes that don't even fit them yet. I thought that was too funny because we went to the hospital system is Hereford, Ulysses, Bedford. Did I say that right, Derek? Hereford, Ulysses, Bedford, HEB? Hearst. Okay. So it's HEB hospital system. And so then the big joke was we went to HEB and got a buy one, get one free. So I had to get the outfits to match. This is just kind of I scratch my head thinking how fun this is. We go through lots of bottles, lots of and of course they only like the bottles that have 15 pieces each. So every time we take a bottle apart, there's 15 pieces attached that we have to wash. So our dishwasher runs 1 to 2 times a day. And there's Nana and Colin. Nana doesn't get in a lot of pictures. She doesn't like pictures. So there you are, Nana. 4 months later, one of the best days of our lives, our attorney sent us a text, and she said, how about we seal this deal on Valentine's Day? I said, let's do it. So on Valentine's Day, we got to go before the court after home studies, just as you would for fostering and adopting through an agency. All of this was private and it was closed, but if you were to go through an agency, you'd go through home studies, you'd go through classes and all of those different things. And we did have to go through home studies and all kinds of paperwork, and the attorneys did a lot of paperwork that I'm sure I have no idea about that was behind the scenes, and never once sighed or said, oh my goodness, we have one. It was like, okay, we just have one more thing. Okay, we checked this off. We're almost to the point where we can go to court. So February 14th, as a lot of you know, and thank y'all, those of you who were able to be there, it was pretty surreal. Even though we knew they were our children, it was final. And I can't think of a better day to have made it final. Sarah Wagner, she's our attorney. I'll put a plug in for her if you need a family attorney. That's Sarah. So that was Sarah right after they were born, and this was Sarah the day of adoption. And so there's a little bit of a growth difference there. They've gained a few pounds. These are just for fun. That's Callie. At the baby shower, people wrote on diapers, and the diaper says, warning, loading. There's one, warning, recharging. There were several different ones that, and Dr. Leo, because that was a sweet picture. That ugly part of your story is going to be the most powerful part of your testimony. And maybe it's not ugly in a sinful, ugly way, but the tears and the times that my faith failed and the days that we were down and didn't see the light and the frustration. There were some really ugly days. I've made you and I'll carry you. I'll sustain you and I'll rescue you. And there's Dad, the best dad. This tough, burly cop that goes on about his business comes home. Is that my baby girl? Yes, you are my little girl. I'm like, who is this man? So I am so, of course, I'm so thankful for these babies, but I'm thankful for the dad that they have, the man that he is to them. And this isn't a story of great faith of my own. It's a story of a combination. Me, y'all, friends, family, like the paralyzed man. It wasn't because he had so much faith. His friends took him. I don't have an earth-shattering testimony of, these terrible times where I've made mistakes, but I wasn't out burglarizing and killing people. And so this is where I've learned, there was a time in my life where people would say, oh, well, feel free to share your testimony. And I would kind of look and think, I don't really have a great testimony. I was 7 years old, Second Baptist Church in Huntsville. I asked Jesus to come into my heart. I got baptized, and life has happened since then. And so when people have said that, I thought, well, okay, thanks, I'll think about that, but there was really nothing to share. But since this has all happened, I've realized that it's not necessarily, having a good testimony is not necessarily about what you've done, but rather what God has done in your life, because I didn't do this. This is nothing I did. I don't have a testimony because of myself. So the 2 points that I'd like to share in closing are that your friends matter. I couldn't have done this without my friends and my family. The faith of my friends, the love of my friends. Casey checking in. How are you? Hey, friend, love you, thinking about you. Lauren making me little trinket boxes to remind me, never give up. Derek, everyone. They're just, I can't even, my parents, I'll cry if I even talk about that because my parents have been a huge support system. Kurt, he's always been that silent, strong, I'm here. He's not a mushy, let's sit down and sing Kumbaya and get all, but he's there. If I needed to cry, he hugged me, he held me. So keeping friends and family that have faith, because they're going to carry you through when you don't have faith. And then that your testimony isn't always something you've done. A lot of times it's something God has done, and now I can say I have a testimony. And I'm so thankful for that. Thank y'all.
This is the sermon for this morning. My sermon would have been the end of John chapter 17, Jesus' prayer. Don't go away. Get back over here. And it culminates in Jesus wants us to be in heaven with him. He prays for himself. He prays for those who will come after. Come on ahead with the babies. Where's the other one? There we come. Bring it. Come on up here with me. And it has been a joy knowing this is Colin and this is Callie. Kurt, come on up. Come on up. This is a sermon in action. Jenny shared a sermon with you. Mine would have concluded with Jesus saying, I want you, Father, to help them to be one as I am one. And he's ultimately talking about being in heaven. And when I hold these little kids, when one of them's crying and just really fussy, I kind of cuddle in and I sing to them, how beautiful heaven must be, sweet home of the happy and free, fair haven of rest for the weary. How beautiful heaven must be. And I just hang on to them and I keep singing that just really, really quiet. These are your testimony. They're a tremendous testimony to everybody who knows them. And we're going to pray for them. Father, thank you so much for your love. Thank you for so much that you have done. Thank you for this church who has been so encouraging and generous and loving. Thank you, Father, for these two small lives who will grow up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord because of this congregation, this family, these people. I pray, Father, that you be with Jenny and Curtis as they continue to raise them. Be with us as we continue to love them. And we praise you and give you all the glory for this amazing testimony. In Jesus' name, amen.